the Texas Rangers, and he knew it as soon as the ball left the bat.
See the wing. Continue that whip around. Talk about the Indians signing Edwin Encarnacion. He's gone out of Toronto. You and I have said, hey, we think Cleveland, you should be the favorites right now to go back and repeat as AL champs and get back to the World Series. Let's talk about Toronto. Where do they go from here without Edwin Encarnacion?
It's going to be tricky because this is a team that was built on their offense, that got by without a ton of pitching and just kind of slugged you to death. And now when you take away 42 home runs and 127 RBIs, that's a lot to replace for the middle of the Blue Jays lineup. And it's going to be very, very difficult to replace, especially when we kind of looked and said, I don't think Joey Bats is going to be back.
Probably not.
And I don't think they should re-sign Joey Bats, but does it make it more important to potentially bring back a Bautista now that Encarnacion is gone? Because how can you really afford to lose both Encarnacion and Bautista from the middle of that lineup while still not having a ton of pitching to speak of?
Yeah, and you're going to have the 2 O's, and it looks like Donaldson will be around unless they make a move there as well. Do you go full rebuild, or if Bats is gone, if Edwin is gone? Because they've been in the postseason the last 2 years, Dylan, and now all of a sudden on paper they don't look like a postseason team this year.
Either that or just try to revamp yourself a little bit, because both those guys were asked to be more table setters because you have Joey Bats and Edwin in the middle of the lineup as guys that kind of cleaned up. Well, both those guys can also clean up a little bit, and they don't have to be table setters. If you move them to the middle of your lineup and then make an impetus to try to gain some pitching, not that there's a ton left out there. It wasn't a great starting pitching free agent market anyway, but whether it's via the trade or otherwise, to try to reinvent what you're doing, because they can't possibly be as good offensively going into next year as they were this year. So to me, I think you try to change your stripes a little bit and acquire some pitching, because even though it was good enough to get
not
them
MASH north of the border.
I know, which is crazy.
Weird.
And it doesn't play to their park,
right,
which is going to be interesting. I think that's why we'll see a little bit of a downtick in Edwin's numbers going to Progressive Field. It's not quite the hitter's paradise that Rogers Center is, but we'll see what Toronto's going to do, because right now, it's hard to think that there's a way back into the playoffs the way the roster is currently constructed.
But Cleveland, awfully happy to have Edwin Encarnacion going down south to Cleveland.